We haven't heard from Michael Bloomberg. He hasn't endorsed anybody in this race, but he struck out over the weekend against Bill de Blasio, the front runner. Tell us about it.
Right. He's, like you said, he stayed pretty silent on this, even though people tend to think that he is a supporter of Christine Quinn, who is Speaker of the City Council. But so over the weekend, this article in New York Magazine comes out, and the interviewer, Chris Smith, asks if Bloomberg thinks that de Blasio has run a, quote, class warfare campaign. And Bloomberg cuts him off and goes, yeah, class warfare and racist. And the interviewer is like, come again? And, then Bloomberg kind of tries to backtrack a little bit. He goes, well, he's been using his family a lot to gain support. And Bill de Blasio is married to a black woman. And has two kids of color. And they appear on the campaign trail with him often. His son, Dante, who's 16 years old and has this, like, amazing big afro, did this TV ad for de Blasio's campaign that was really effective and really successful, and one of kind of the most talked about, probably the most talked about ad of the entire campaign season.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of, not hard to imagine why those comments were not received well from pretty much any corner of the race. A lot of the candidates came out and condemned them, and Bill de Blasio, said after the article was published that they were really inappropriate. And so, no one's really happy about it.
What was Bloomberg thinking, right? I mean, first of all, he's hardly the first candidate who has appeared with his family. I mean, how many times did we see Mitt Romney's 5 sons, right?
I know.
And all of the grandchildren. How about John Huntsman's 3 daughters? I mean, right? And you can go on and on and on, right? Chelsea Clinton.
Shouldn't we be happy that this candidate has a family that wants to support him? I mean, it's not like these people. I mean, this is what Bill de Blasio said later that day. He was like, my family members make their own decisions. They participate in the campaign on their own terms. And actually, his daughter, who's 18, said to reporters, she was like, we make our own decisions. And my dad, 20 years ago, when he got married, did not seek out a black woman. Specifically, like come on, people.
Right. He didn't go around saying, "Here's it. I'm going to run for mayor someday, so I'm going to marry a black woman, right? So I can be different."
Yeah, they're pretty.
And then I'll have a black woman, and then I'll have some mixed color kids, and boy, this is going to be a great campaign 20 years from now.
It's an unlikely story. She used to be a lesbian. And, if you could, and no one ever saw them getting together, I would imagine.
Yeah, and by the way, when they got married, I mean, even today, interracial couples are not well received in a lot of quarters, right? It was even tougher 20 years ago.
20 years ago,
right?
Yeah, that's a good point.
So de Blasio has, I guess one of the reasons that Bloomberg is striking out against him, right, is because de Blasio, certainly he's still the front runner, correct? Isn't he?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh yes, wide margin. I don't know if he'll avoid a runoff completely. I don't know if he'll clear 40%, but he's definitely in a good position too.
And so Bloomberg, people think, again, as you pointed out, secretly supporting Christine Quinn because she's the one that made it possible for him to get the 3rd term.
Which is something that de Blasio has campaigned on this entire time, right? De Blasio is the anti-Bloomberg candidate. That his campaign tagline is "Tale of Two Cities" because he says that Michael Bloomberg has made it so that there's a rich New York City and there's a New York City for the poor, and there isn't anything in between. And so, I mean, this is de Blasio and Bloomberg have a kind of bitter relationship.
Well, if there's anybody, I'd like to ask anybody who has been to New York City. I don't know how anybody who's been to New York City could deny that there are 2 New Yorks. Maybe there are more than 2 New Yorks, but certainly the Upper East Side of New York is not like the rest of New York, right? In terms of
I mean, it's true. I mean, you walk on 95th Street, and then you're on the Upper East Side, and you walk up 1 block to 96th Street, and you're not in the Upper East Side anymore. So, I mean, it's de Blasio's message has resonated with people. I mean, that's, we wouldn't see him this far ahead in a primary contest this competitive. So something's working about what he's doing.
Is it generally conceived that, or believed that whoever wins the Democratic primary tomorrow, or if there is a runoff, whoever wins the runoff will be the next mayor of New York?
I think at one point it was. I mean, the kind of focus from the press and political class, so to speak, has definitely been on the Democratic race. But at the same time, we haven't had a Democratic mayor in New York City for like 20 years. And also, Joe Lhota, who will probably win the primary on the Republican side tomorrow, is a really credible candidate. He's like really serious as an operation. I think he's going to be a serious contender up against anyone. So, and it's not like can you imagine a Bill de Blasio race versus a Joe Lhota race? Like this, like one of the most progressive guys in the world versus Joe Lhota, someone who's, endorsed by Rudy.
Mm-hmm.
So, it would be a serious race. Like there's Republicans have elected mayors to the city for a long time now.
Yeah. No, that's interesting. That because you're the first person I've heard who's said that whoever wins the Republican primary might have a choice. What is Lhota's background? Is he in office now?
He was the head of the MTA, so of the public transit system, and he's just kind of like this. He had some experience, kind of working as a political on the other side of politics as an aide. He is kind of a businessman. He worked in banking for a while, and then he worked for the Giuliani administration. So he's got a kind of range of experience. But his big thing is that he was chairman of the MTA.
Now, I have to ask you finally about the mayor's race before we get into anything else. On the mayor's race, is this the end of the road for Anthony Weiner?
I think it is. I almost want to go to cover his election night campaign tomorrow and write the story like the end of Anthony Weiner, because it's just, I think it is. I mean, he was on the Today Show this morning, and
he was on Meet the Press yesterday.
Yeah, he was on Meet the Press. What are they doing? Why are they booking him? I mean, on the
That was the
Today
reaction
Show
I saw
morning.
most on Twitter. It was like, why is Meet the Press giving Anthony Weiner time 2 days before the primary?
Yeah. Why didn't they put the front runners on? Right? I mean.
Right.
Yeah. If Weiner's not last in the polls, the last I saw, he's next to last. And same thing with the Today Show this morning. They're just trying to keep the scandal alive.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's definitely what's happening. It's kind of sad. So it's hard to watch at this point. It's just like,
Oh, right. All right. Now, tell us about the controller's race. Eliot Spitzer and Matt Springer? Is that his name?
Scott Stringer. Yeah. It's really close. I'm really I'm surprised, I guess, looking back on it. When Spitzer got in, he immediately shot to the top of the polls by like 20
points ahead. Right, yeah.
And everyone was like, oh, this is going to be, this is like a shoo-in for him. I mean, I don't know. People weren't saying that, but it's gotten really, really close. One poll will come out one day and Stringer will be out on top. And next day, Spitzer will be on top. So I don't know what's going to happen in that race. I mean, I was just looking over their schedules for today. They're both all over the place. I mean, I think it's going to be really close.
Yeah. Has there been a lot of advertising in that race?
Oh, yeah. I mean, Spitzer has far outspent his opponent because he's self-financing his campaign. Right. So he's got his old ad guy, who was making these amazing ads for him when he was running for AG and governor. He's got, making these like really nice glossy ads for the controller race, and Stringer. That's hard for Stringer to keep up with, I think, because he's not self-financing. But yeah, there's been a lot of media for this race.
Well, I got to tell you, from an entertainment value alone, it's been worth it. This mayor's race in New York, Ruby. And thank you for doing such a good job covering it and for sharing your reporting with us here on the Bill Press Show. Thanks, Ruby.
Thanks a lot.
All right.
Thanks.